I struggle with uh, a lot more, and how it impacts me, and which is in part why I chose the loving kindness meditation, um, because I can give everyone as much loving kindness as they'll allow me, um, and not have enough left over for myself. Um, and so I definitely wanted to incorporate that into what I was going to talk about today. And I guess just going into where I'm at in my life right now. So I'm currently still working at the boarding and daycare facility, but now I've started studying courses to really be a dog behaviorist. So training the behaviors that are undesirable out of them, and especially with aggressive dogs. Those are the ones that I really want to work with, and um, stumbling into that passion was completely by accident. Never really thought about working with dogs or aggressive dogs in any way. But when I first started at the job I'm at right now, within the first few months, we had a dog that boarded with us named Yema, and she was very reactive to dogs and people. So a lot of the staff were having a hard time managing her, dealing with her. Um, she made them nervous because she was not one that would necessarily be interest be willing to hold back if she felt threatened. So I was still in a very much state of mind where I was still in prison of um, when there's something that needs to be taken care of, you just kind of shut down and just go into it. And that's what I tended to do a lot at my job, with situations with dogs that probably should have thought through a little bit better instead of just going into it. But I was just on autopilot, and so I took her out into our back area, and I'm still not too sure what I had done, but um, her and I just started developing a bond, and uh, she stopped becoming reactive with me, started getting excited whenever I would come, and I would see the differences in how she would react with me as opposed to my coworkers. So, and I would help them bring her out so that, she would have the ability to go to the bathroom, and not be in her suite doing that. And then going from there to having my coworkers near me so that she can kind of build that bond and understanding of they're safe, they're okay. Um, and yeah, it was just a little process that I knew nothing really about, but just knew that I wanted to help. And when I saw the changes start happening, like she came into board a few months later, and the reactivity wasn't really there. New people were able to manage her for the most part. It was just, she was a different dog, and calmer and happier. And it was a beautiful thing to see. And it just, when I saw that, it just had me redirect my energy into a different aspect of life. And at the time, I was going to college for a degree in psychology. But I mean, honestly, the same type of applications that you can put with psychology you can apply when it comes to the dogs as well. So just having that beginning background, I think was pretty beneficial. And so now I am studying to really become a dog behaviorist and work for myself so that I can develop my own brand, my own name, I guess. And my goal would be to be able to travel with it, and just help as many people connecting with their dogs as I can and really being of service. I mean, some of the stuff that I've found that they train dogs for is just pretty incredible. I mean, couple weeks ago, I was having very strong anxiety and PTSD hitting me, and life was just, it was very hard to stay centered. It was really hard to stay focused, and my emotions were just up and down. It was a lot to experience. And then at the same time, little things were setting me off, and I was reacting in behaviors that like I haven't had since I was in prison. And it's that uh, feeling trapped, feeling pushed back, and my back's to the wall. So there's only one option. There's never laying down. There's only fighting. And so a lot of that was coming up. And while I'm looking into all the things that I can do with these dogs, like you can train them for PTSD with military or anyone really. And you, if you do time in prison, me personally, I believe that there is always some form of PTSD in there just because it's not a natural environment for people to be in, and mentally it's not a sustainable environment. So even being able to pass on utilizing these dogs in that way for people coming home and things like that, I mean, there's just so much to give back for, um, that, yeah, it redirected my energy and my thoughts towards a different path. Um, and I enjoy it. I still get overwhelmed sometimes, like when I'm working, but not necessarily because of the dogs, but I'm still developing the working with people aspect. I'm better with animals, but definitely working on the people part so that I can be there for both. Um, but one of the other things that I was looking into is, so I was going over the precepts, and one, abstaining from taking life; two, abstaining from taking what is not given; abstaining from sensuous misconduct; abstaining from false speech; and abstaining from intoxicants as tending to cloud the mind. Now, the first one, for those who don't know about my crime that landed me in prison, I On my 23rd birthday, I had a DUI crash that uh, I crashed into a tree in a blackout and in a blackout mind state. So I don't fully remember that part. And my friend, who at that time I had known him for about 7 years, um, was sitting in the front seat next to me, and he didn't have his seatbelt on. And so when I crashed into a tree just down the street from the bar, he uh, he died on impact from a torn aorta. And I had a previous DUI 3 months before that, my first one. And so license was suspended, no reason to be in the car, no reason to be driving or anything like that. Um, but very much in a mind state of don't care, do what I'm going to do. Um, and especially when I was with homies and things like that, because of the certain perception uh, I wanted to present. And the other part of myself that I know is I, one of my fears is letting people down. And whether it's a positive letdown or a negative, it didn't matter at the time. I never wanted to let people down. I mean, you go to prison then, and you're really letting a lot of people down. But it wasn't that clear in my mind at that time. Uh, so I shouldn't have been driving, and I still chose to. And I had two other friends in the back seat, and they survived, but definitely had some very bad injuries. And because of my previous DUI, they charged me with first-degree murder, and I fought that for a year and a half before I got my plea deal for voluntary manslaughter for 11 years. So that's as low as they were willing to go. And so after that, I got out in 7 years. Um, but I did a lot of work on myself while I was in there, and just trying to go through a lot of my history, a lot of my past. Um, but I think one of the most difficult things for me was the losing my friend, especially at that time when I'm someone who would have rather anything happen to me than anyone else that I cared for. Um, if there was ever any missions or anything that needed to be taken care of, I always told them, I got it. Don't worry about it, because if anything happens, I would rather it happen to me than anyone else. And then playing a very big role in the reason why um, one of your close friends is no longer there. Just it's very hard to come and like accept that. And for the first 2 weeks of me being in the hospital, no one had told me, because I was not stable, and they didn't want anything to happen to me by telling me the truth of what happened. So instead, it was more of, he's okay, don't worry about it. Um, and then when they do tell me, having that difficulty processing the contradiction. Um, so for me, I mean, even though it wasn't with intent that I took a life, my actions resulted in that life no longer being alive, not being around. And that causes me a very hard time in um, being okay with it and with myself. And I'm someone who tends to think way too much and get lost in my head. And mm, that's when I need to kind of just slow down and give myself that self compassion, look after myself. I'll do everything and so much for everyone else, like especially when I'm at work. Like sometimes I won't take lunches, sometimes I won't take breaks. Gotten so much better at that. Like I'm now taking my lunches and taking breaks and everything regularly. But before I wouldn't do it until I felt I had earned the right to have a break or have a lunch. And sometimes I didn't feel I earned it that day, or didn't have enough time for it. So I would just put myself on the back burner, and it caused me to struggle even more. Um, so just having that precept is something that has really bothered me a lot because it's just coming to terms with it and being okay with it, accepting it, and being able to not necessarily move forward, but being able to live life again without feeling as much weight. And so, one thing that I had started doing recently, well, recently as in January and all the way through February, and then had a lot of other stuff going on in March and these past couple months. So I need to get back on it. But I visited my friend's grave for the first time since, well, for the first time. And it was uh, it was really hard in the sense of like it was real, and it I knew that he was gone, but it's like a confirmation seeing him that he's gone. And just sitting there talking to him, telling him about my life, and what I've been up to, and laughing about some of the positive, like the funny things that we would get into that weren't necessarily like illegal and things like that, but like had positive um, atmosphere about it. And just apologizing, asking him to help me let go of some of the stuff that I'm carrying, um, and letting him know that I got to move forward with my life. And this is what I want to do. Here's my plans. Um, but I'm not going to forget everything that I'm doing, and these positive lights are for myself and for him and for those that I hope to be able to reach out and touch. And in his name, knowing that I remember, and I remember the good that this world needs, and that hopefully I can play a good part in. Um, And yeah, that's just where I've been. I was visiting every single week and having those conversations with them and just kind of re-engaging with my own humanity, that it's okay for me to feel these things. It's okay to wish things were different and everything, but not getting stuck on it, because what's done is done. And now it's, where do I go from here? And just telling them that I hope I'm doing right in his eyes, but that I got to do what's also best for me. Um, and yeah, it's been rough, and some days are better than others, but every day I wake up and I try, and I try to keep pushing, and I try to keep going. And um, one of the best things that I feel is people that I care for, and I'm able to be there for them and give them compassion. I feel that same compassion coming back to me, just like as in the meditation. But yeah, that's all that I have, and I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for listening.